Welcome! Today we're going over how to paint different textures and edges with watercolor. This is the Wandering Watercolor. Let's start painting. Okay, so today I have prepared 4 different drawings of the same cat. I'm gonna paint each one of them in different textured styles. So for the first one, I'm just going to do a flat wash. It's probably the quickest way to paint something, but it's also very, very flat. I mean, obviously in the name. So I'm just going for a very even color, no texture, just kind of like a base layer. I'm going to speed it up here, make it a little quicker. Now, we're going to imagine that the light is coming from kind of like a angled downward direction, kind of like this way. And for all of them, this is going to be the direction that the light is coming from. So basically I'm just adding another layer of the same exact color, and it gives it, after it's dried, it gives it the appearance of a shadow. But it's very flat and somewhat cartoony looking. And this next one, I'm just going to go in and very loosely just kind of throw the color on there without any real worry about where the edge is. I'm going to throw some splatters and just kind of be very loose with it, purposely go outside of the edge. It helps break up the monotony. And after it's dried, I just go in with a darker color. Same thing, not too worried about it. It's kind of blending all over the place. I'm going to dry my brush after that. And it's still a little wet, so it, like, the bristles kind of clump together, as you can see. There's still some moisture in the brush. But this way it helps kind of give it a more frazzled look. And then just use that to get some texture in there. Just dip it in the color and then use the bristles to your advantage. This helps give the effect of kind of like a textured like fur, or can be used for grass and different leaves. A lot of different uses for this. I'm just going to go in with the same color, just a little darker, more pigment, just to give a little bit of distinction on some of the detail. Not too much though, because I like keeping it kind of chaotic. And then maybe I'll add a little bit more on the bottom, just because that way you can just make a little more of the detail, so it makes a little more sense. But yeah, that's basically it. That's these two. One of them's very flat and the other one's very expressive and kind of like splattered all over the place. As you can see, the flat one almost looks like a marker, and this one you can tell that it was painted with watercolor. Very loose, very scattered. It's very interesting for the eye to look at the image like that, because there's a lot more information there. So anyway, so that's it for these two, and now I'm gonna move on to the next two, and which will do more dry brushing techniques to emphasize the texture. So basically this is a completely dry edge brush. I'm gonna wet it first and then dry it again, because again that helps the bristles clump together. And then I'm just gonna grab the color and get right into it. Like, I'm not even gonna worry about diluting it or anything. Again, not worrying about the edges, just going all over the place, very loose and quick to give it that painterly texture. And then again, some of the same color after it's dried, layer it on top. And it helps give that textured, very gritty look. And again, after it dries a little bit, throw on the same color, just back to back. With this technique, you don't really have to wait for it to dry. That's the great thing about it. It's very quick. And just add some line for detail, but you can tell that it's very textured. It definitely makes a big difference. And it's also interesting, but it kind of gives it a worn out look. Now with this next one, I took color off of the palette first and then dried the brush. And then because there's very little moisture on the brush along with the color. It's the same idea, but it gives it a little wetter of a look. It's almost like a marker that's running out and you're still using it. You're using that lowered moisture as an advantage to make the texture and the different patterns look a little more interesting. And then I did go in a little bit with a fine point or a finer point to just add some more detail. But that's basically it. So the first one's very flat, just two different layers of the same exact color. Second one's very splattered, very loose. Probably my favorite way to paint, really. The first one is more elegant and more cartoony looking, but the second one is, you can still kind of make it cartoony looking, just very, I don't know, more expressive, I would say. And then this way, it's still very expressive. It kind of looks like rusted to me. I don't know, like kind of like an old wall or an old car or something. This would be a good technique to use for that. And then this one, again, kind of like a marker that's running out. Actually, this kind of reminds me of Copic markers, the way that you can get some of the same look. But that's pretty much it. These are the methods. These are some of the different methods you can use for different texture. Give it a try, and I think you might enjoy some of these. I'll see you next time.